everyone, welcome back. So yeah, so back to what I was sort of talking about here in this in the previous sort of compilation audio is sort of what would be really a strong army against sort of the mass caster style strategy that I go for with Orc. I guess we'll go ahead and look at some of the details going on this replay before I get into that though. So I'm going to be Orc here. I think I'm going to fast tech. I think I go for a Blade Master this time, so it's not going to be the caster strategy here. I've got a human ally, an undead ally, and two undead allies on the edge, and then a human ally to go here. Looks like the human is going to be doing a rifleman build. Typically go for Mountain King with that. You see most players, or a lot of players, will say go for a Mountain King with rifles. Death Knight sort of delayed Fiend build, it seems. Or delayed graveyard anyway, and then we've got red, maybe a more typical, sort of more typical Fiend build, the delayed altar. I think, I don't know, maybe he might go for a Tavern Hero, not entirely sure, probably not. Yeah, he goes for Death Knight too. So we've got two Death Knights, a Mountain King, and a Blade Master. This is actually a pretty solid hero combination. Again, not much deviation from like the sort of standard heroes. Blade Master, pretty common even in the Forest random team, even though I would make an argument that there are maybe some better heroes or heroes that have more sort of higher ceilings than the Blade Master, because he doesn't have an aura, he doesn't have an AoE ability. But yeah, these heroes, decent stats, really pretty strong sort of hero focus fire. And yeah, I think this guy I think this game is gonna be yeah, this is the game where there's a tower rush. So anyway, I went here and harassed purple. I killed his acolyte. I got him to burn through two death coils. I'm gonna heal with a clarity, sort of healing salve, and use a clarity potion and a wind walk, so he can't cancel that. He's got another 127 mana, so he could have death coiled me to cancel those things, but it was on cooldown, I do believe. He didn't have a Dust of Appearance. He didn't have a shot to get Dust of Appearance. He did have two towers though, which is what allowed him to sort of do all the damage that he did. Pretty interesting setup here with a Nerubian Tower near his gold mine and out in the front of his base. This is actually going to be fairly effective against a lot of different strategies, specifically a Blade Master harass. The normal damage is pretty good against heroes. It's not a very high amount of damage from the Nerubian Tower, of course, but it's going to slow me down from escaping. Assuming he can actually see me though, not wind walk. But anyway, I'm going to go here and hit Orange's base. He doesn't have a Death Knight to coil to heal his acolytes, so he does lose one acolyte here. I get some damage on another. Blue burns through Death Coil. So far I've drawn 3 Death Coils and just now a Dust of Appearance. Orange had to be sitting in his base, and not that I specifically caused purple to tower, but he had sort of built Nerubian towers probably in anticipation of some kind of either harass or attack, as he's an edge player. I would assume that was probably the reasoning. I don't know if he does that every single game or not, but you'll notice that Orange doesn't have any towers in his base, and Green at least has one Nerubian tower. Blue doesn't have any towers, so they've sort of gone with that idea. Edge players need to get the towers, more often than even sort of inner players, and that's probably a decent assumption. Now you're going to see a pretty well coordinated tower rush here that you won't often see, especially from a bunch of undead players. All undead players on the other team, by the way. I very rarely see undead players tower rush anyway, much less in 4v4 random team doing a very coordinated push like this. It's pretty rare. That's a lot of fiends. It's going to be actually very hard to deal with, especially since I fast tagged. I have 0 tier 1. I'm going to be fast tagging up into Raiders and pretty much only Raiders. So the benefit of fast tanking into only raiders is assuming assuming this tower rush sort of works and they're able to hold these towers and everything. I try to harass. I tell them sort of. I can't remember if I told them not to commit to battles or anything, but because I was going for raiders, me and Pink are going to be sort of harassing from the back. The towers aren't up yet, so it's not. It's more of an investment that's going to sort of come online a little bit later. And once it does come online, it's going to be very hard for us to fight here. But in the meantime, it is possible for us to sort of, fight them here at our base with some advantage. We have he has a spirit. Teal has a spirit tower. He has a Nerubian tower. He's standing on blight. Looks like Pink might lose his Mountain King. No, he actually doesn't. Oh, he needs to town portal. Oh, he bolts. He bolts him, though he isn't going to get away. He probably could have surrounded him, honestly. He didn't try to, but and he had about 430 something hit points. So, would he have gotten the kill? I don't know. With my Blade Master, we probably could have forced a town portal. But either way, though, my point was that since the towers aren't up, we can try to do some damage, and we did. It looks like Pink got a bunch of kills. He did a bunch of damage to some of these heroes. Teal is doing a bunch of damage to Purple's hero. No clue why Green's not up. Death coiling his ally. He needs to. He didn't. Wow, they have so many. They have three. Sorry, they had 2 Death Knights that could have healed that third Death Knight there, and they didn't. That was not poor play from Green. He didn't have the mana to do it, but Blue for sure had plenty of mana. I don't think Green had enough mana. Maybe he used his Death Coil, and he actually did, but I don't know something else. But anyway, didn't. Pink's going to come in here. There's only 1 Spirit Tower. Again, somewhat possible to do some damage. There's a lot of damaged units here. I could probably pick these Acolytes off, which would sort of slow the towering process down. I should probably do that. It's only 111 hit points for this Acolyte. And let's see if he does. He's not focusing. Never focusing. I don't know what he's doing right now, honestly. Okay, there he's starting to get some damage. He didn't secure the kill. But now he's going to back up. He's taking some damage. He kills some skeletons there. He's gotten level 3, which is good. And in the meantime, I'm bringing my raiders around to destroy stuff. Go for this expansion. Very easy to kill it. He's only got 1 Acolyte. He does get the unsummon off. Pretty good move on his part. He didn't unsummon the Necropolis, though, so that's bad news. And I do have Pillage, I'm pretty sure, which is pretty crucial if you're going to mass. I'll say crucial, but it's very beneficial to do this, to get Pillage with mass Raiders and or mass Grunts. The upgrade is simply incredibly cheap, and if you do, like, in terms of paying it off, it is basically, I don't know how many attacks it takes to pay it off, but with Grunts or Raiders, but again, it's amazingly cheap. So, and if you're like ever going to attack buildings with Grunts or Raiders, definitely get this upgrade. It's like I say, it's very, very cheap. I think it's 75 gold, 25 lumber, something like that. It might be 75 and 75, but I want to say it's only 75 and 25 gold and lumber. So anyway, I get Green to town portal, and here is one of the, like I said, the benefits of mass raiders versus like the tower rush strategy. At some point, generally what happens with the tower rush is they're going to break through this base, if it succeeds that is. The way these games go is they'll break through a base, they can potentially expand here, and then they'll go do something else. They'll just leave the towers, and until somebody tries to break in there, then they might try to defend them. But he's only got 4 towers up here between orange and blue. That's not going to stand against my raiders. Against like ground armies, and especially if they're just camping it, that's bad to fight. But if they're not there to defend those towers, at any point I can just peel back, and when they're not there, and I can just knock those towers out for not very much cost to me. But and then if they expand there, then that'll be a vulnerability to attack. We got blue losing a. Well, he didn't actually lose that fiend. He took some damage from the creeps. He Teal might lose this, or blue might lose this, or not Teal, blue might lose this Acolyte. He's going to try to expand here again. Not going to let that happen. Red and pink have a pretty big army and a pretty big push going here on green. Green is now building or upgrading 4 spirit towers in his base. So that's gonna, once those get up, that's gonna be dangerous. But that's a pretty big resource cost, assuming we never actually, if we pull back and don't actually fight there. But it looks like we, pink and red maybe don't have the army to fight green and purple and orange together. And that's sort of my fault. I would be the third player that could join them. But again, I'm catching blue by himself, and he doesn't have a lot of units, probably because he expended a lot of resources on towering. So I'm going to sort of wipe his army down and then run. I can run. One of the issues with undead, even with a holy aura, it's pretty easy to run from them if they don't have like frost nova and or frost worms to slow you down. You notice they have unholy aura, a lot of redundancy between these death knights, but yeah, I can just ensnare and keep running. And at any point somebody's out of position, like blue for example and purple, they don't have, purple's whole army isn't with them. If I just turned around and like ensnared blue's hero or purple's stuff, if orange wasn't there to like back them up, I could probably secure some kills or some town portals. But anyway, they back off and go somewhere else. Like I said, they're going to leave these towers, assuming who's going to go just attack those towers. What turns out I'm going to do it because I got mass raiders, and that's it's gold from pillage. It's siege damage against fortified armor. It's piercing damage against medium armor, which isn't really great. It's a potential expansion that I'm denying. I assume he's going to cancel this, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe blue doesn't cancel. It looks like he doesn't cancel that, so big mistake on blue's end. Yeah, I don't know what green looks like. He's smack talking his allies. But yeah, now I've drawn orange and blue here, and in terms of like fighting them, there's a bunch of ghouls. Ghouls are actually decent against raiders if I sort of stand there and fight them, but I can just ensnare them and run around. And I kill these acolytes. I probably should just do it with a blade master. Honestly, it looks silly to do this with raiders. And actually, I didn't need the town portal, but I decided to town portal all the way across to Pink's main and use a regen scroll there, scroll of regeneration, to heal up my raiders, and then go. I know they're all down here. Well, at least orange and blue were down there, so they're sort of, if I'm gonna hit green or if I'm gonna hit the top, which again I'm probably not gonna hit green because he's got all those towers. A very formidable looking base defense. Probably would have been better to get this Nerubian tower like behind some of these buildings if he could, but that's a lot of towers that I didn't actually notice that he had so many. I see him and I'm like, oh no, I need to run back. That's not gonna. One thing, his army is sitting there, which is a pretty good deterrent, but add on to that with 2 Nerubian towers, 4 spirit towers, and a Halls of the Dead, that's a no-go. But that's a lot of resources that he just spent. If I add up all those resources, 145 gold per spirit tower. So for those, it's going to be 580 gold, I think. I think it's 45 lumber for each one of those. So quite a lot of lumber, 190, or sorry, 180, I think. And then 2 Nerubian towers, 200 gold, 20 lumber each, so 40 lumber. A lot of towers from orange as well, so that's another chunk of resources. Again, in terms of like slowing my raiders down, not terrible, but not great either, because I do have fortified, they do have fortified armor, and I do siege damage, 2-1 upgrades. In terms of like what kind of units can counter spirit towers, raiders are pretty decent, to do it. So they still need to defend with their armies. In the meantime, red is got frost worms, he's got tri-hero. So he's chomping down on blue. Blue is going to be gone out of the game. So now we've evened up the numbers, and we have 3 versus 3 now. Teal got knocked out. He left pretty early. He had apparently a bunch of resources which we can't access now, which is unfortunate. But yeah, they never really did get to expand down here. It looks like they've got an expansion up now for blue, so he's not totally out of the game, but he's pretty much out. At any point I could like sneak over there, and assuming I think to go check that, I can sneak over there and deal with that Any player on our team can. There's no towers. Um, is that my Bat Rider? Wow, pretty good. I decided to scout it with a Bat Rider. I don't have Liquid Fire, again, with only one Bat Rider. It's not, I'm about to actually have it, though, so that's good, but it's not really that huge with just one Bat Rider. It will prevent him from repairing this, which will potentially be very, very annoying for him. But yeah, he doesn't have any towers up here, so I Town Portal and just run down here to deal with this. We've got Purple, who looks like he wants to defend, and again, he just probably saw, oh, one Bat Rider, not a big deal. Raiders, he's not going to be able to, he's really not going to be able to stop me from dealing with this. The bad news for him, on the other hand, is he's only got 4 Fiends. So I can actually fight his army pretty reasonably here, or I can ensnare him, which is one of the strategies that's pretty amazing with Mass Raiders in a team game context. If anybody is ever out of position somewhere, especially if they don't have a Town Portal like you see Purple here, all I have to do is ensnare their whole army. I can back off if I need to, or I can attack them and wait for one of my allies to join in and jump them with an ambush. You know, and the ensnare duration is pretty good. The cooldown is pretty good. Raiders are fast moving. So, you know, you might be able to get out and move like a little bit and then get ensnared again. Move a little bit, get ensnared again. But in the meantime, I mean, that's plenty of time for pink or red to join me in you know, just punishing them or their bad positioning and or lack of Town Portal. You know, I decided, instead of just going all in on this expansion, to go for the army, to lock them up right here with Ensnare, wait for pink, and then just wipe them out, and that's it. You know, that once they lose their army, that's it. You know, my army honestly wasn't actually terrible. I mean, you know, you look how many Raiders I had versus how many Fiends he had. I probably could have done okay just by myself. But the fact that, you know, I just locked them down, I don't even really have to fight them. I can ensnare everything, back up and wait, you know, wait for pink, wait for red, and either one of those, you know, or both, and that's it. You know, they just show up, and that's game over. Like, and that's one of the things with Raiders, like, and with a lot of other strategies. You know, Frost Worms, you know, Mountain Kings with Stormbolt, Sorceresses with Slow, Mass Dryads, Masters of the Talon with Cyclone, Keeper of the Grove with Entangle. You know, lots of strategies offer these. A lot of tier 2 strategies that are sort of standard, like hero choice and unit choice, they have these sort of, I might call them like anti-micro capabilities. You know, right at, you know, at tier 2, you see a lot of Shadowhunter use for Hex. You see a lot of Mountain King use for Stormbolt. You see Raiders a lot. Sometimes you'll see Sorceresses. You'll see frequently Dryads, a Keeper of the Grove, or a Naga. You know, Frost Arrow doesn't lock a unit down, but it's kind of like a slowing effect. Also, for Undead, you will see Lich, which Frost Nova sort of functions the same way. But the problem from an Undead perspective, which again, all these enemies were Undead, is Undead sort of doesn't have great, they don't have a unit that serves that function. Like, you look at all the races, you know, they have heroes that can do it, and then they have like a support unit, the Raider, the Sorceress, the Dryad. They have these units that can do it as well. Undead doesn't really have that. And I think that is a massive weakness for Undead that is somewhat mitigated by their other strengths, you might say. And then at tier 3, they do have the Frostworm, which sort of serves that purpose. You might say Master Necromancers with Cripple can serve that purpose. You know, Frost Nova does serve that purpose. Impale can, Sleep can. They can get a Naga from the shop. They can get a Panda for Drunken Haze. You know, I guess you could say Cluster Rockets, but Cluster Rockets is pretty weak. So yeah, but the Tavern Heroes, I mean, those aren't race specific, and those are all hero choices. And are any of those sort of spells from the Tavern as strong as Hex, as strong as Stormbolt, and or as strong as maybe Nova? You know, that it's not really. Like, you know, I'm not saying that Drunken Haze isn't like a, you know, useful spell, but in terms of like the anti-micro aspect of like locking units down and punishing it, I don't think it's substantially better than Nova. Definitely not better than Hex and Stormbolt. Naga, for, in the case of Elf, uh, is not as strong as obviously as Hex and Stormbolt in terms of like locking units down. I would say units and heroes, um, but it sort of goes in conjunction with Dryads and a Demon Hunter most frequently. And then Elf does have Entangle. They have Shadow Strike, which arguably function in terms of the anti-micro aspect about as well as Nova, I would say. Now, if you want to talk about Sleep, they did buff Sleep to where it's actually fairly effective. Now with a shorter cooldown, it's fairly effective actually at this and cooldown of the mana cost reduction. It actually is sort of a viable option in terms of like uh, punishing people for positioning and stopping certain micro aspects. Though the problem is when you compare it to something like Stormbolt. Obviously, Stormbolt does damage. It would compare it to Hex. Hex, doesn't stop you from doing damage to the unit. Like when you sleep something, if you actually do any damage to it, it wakes up. Also, Hex requires a dedicated actual dispel, not just a force. You can force attack something and wake it up from sleep. So you don't actually need dispel, right? When sleep comes out, you can just, you have 2 footmen or something, or whatever. You can just wake your own unit or hero up, and that's the thing. And also, you can't do damage. So it's not like with Hex, you can Hex something and just, pile on the damage, try to kill it before it, like a hero, before he can Town Hall, Town Portal out. It's not Town Hall, Town Portal, or use a healing potion or whatever. With Sleep, that's not the case. If they have a Town Portal and you actually want to kill the hero, Sleep is the only way Sleep really helps you do that is like getting a Sleep Surround or something. I think here in this game I actually go AF. I think I A-click and go use the bathroom or get something to drink. I did go AFK for this, thinking we pretty much locked it up. That's pretty dangerous. This is a lot of towers, but again, our army, I think it was like, I see orange and green. I think it was 3 versus 2 at this point. So while Abominations are about the best army they can really get against my Raiders, and fighting in this base with me not microing the Raiders and us just getting smacked by some of the towers, not all of them. If they fought us like right here instead, and me AFK, they might have had a decent shot to hold this. I still don't think they would have won anyway, but blue is expanding here, it looks like. Has expanded, so he's coming back into the game, but it's a little bit late here. I don't know if Red is being serious or not, talking about the enemies or whatever. Doesn't matter though. This army sizes, they can't really handle this. But anyway, I think going back to the undead thing, I think that's one of the reasons why undead is they're one of the weaknesses of undead. This sort of the base race situation. They're not in a great shape for a base race. That's not really a very viable strategy really with undead most of the time. Maybe when you get to like worms and stuff, or maybe mass A-bombs or frenzied ghouls, you can ghoul frenzied ghouls. Maybe you can sort of threaten that, but like level 3 Unholy Aura, you can run around and harass stuff. But yeah, piercing and magic is really bad against buildings. Normal is a little better, but it's not siege. So it's like, and undead only has one option for siege, the meat wagon. Generally their spells don't help in a base race. I mean, you could say that beetles, as a summon, they add damage to buildings. Sure. If you get death and decay, yes, sure. If you get infernal, yes, sure. But other than that, the AoE spells of undead don't hit buildings, unlike some of the other races. The aura that the Death Knight has doesn't sort of directly add damage. It buffs the movement speed, which you could say, well, you get into range quicker, but it doesn't add damage like a true shot aura, like an endurance aura. It doesn't add damage that way. And yeah, Infernal. Okay, Infernal does chaos damage, So that's pretty solid if you get there. Death and Decay, like sort of like Earthquake or Starfall or something, it can do damage to buildings. It might actually be, I don't remember the numbers for Earthquake, but Death and Decay may actually, I'll go through the score tabs here if you want to look at it. But Death and Decay might be one of the best weapons against buildings, like hero spells. Assuming you can channel it and everything. Yeah, it's a little bit more versatile than Earthquake in general. I don't know if it outpaces Earthquake against buildings. You've got something like, the Nagas Tornado, which could arguably be decent against buildings, but I think Death and Decay is probably right there with Earthquake and Starfall. It's like the best against buildings, probably. It might actually be the very best, but that's an ultimate. You got to get to level 6. You got to assume you don't get interrupted while you're casting it, and then you're comparing it to, like, Metamorphosis, Earthquake. Earthquake is channeling. Metamorphosis is just really versatile, strong. The Tinker's ultimate, stuff like that. So, yeah, okay, if you get Death and Decay, you have a weapon against buildings. But at that point, you may or may not have already won the game. At that point, you shouldn't. You'd probably rather your ultimate be a little bit more effective against units and things, units and heroes. Though, if you don't get interrupted, Death and Decay can be a weapon against armies as well. I'm not going to say that. It's actually maybe even underrated, honestly. I mean, the channeling aspect is a big downfall for a lot of spells being very useful in battle. So, again, it's a pretty large assumption that you say, oh, if you don't get interrupted, because you most often will get interrupted. There. But I think this is the next one. So this is going to be on Twilight Ruins. So yeah, it might be. I would like to see Death and Decay get like similar treatment to the Keeper of the Grove, where he got the 3-second invulnerability. I think all channeling spells should, arguably maybe not Voodoo, Big Bad Voodoo. That would probably be broken if the Shadow Hunter had 3 seconds of invulnerability, since he gives everything else invulnerability. Maybe not though. I mean, it's just 3 seconds, but maybe make an exception for Big Bad Voodoo. But I think Death and Decay, Starfall, the Beastmaster's ultimate, the Naga's ultimate. I don't know about the human Archmage's ultimate. I'll probably give that. It's the ultimate ability. The fact that you can like near instantly stop a lot of these ultimates. I mean, you don't want to see something that's like super OP, just break the game when it happens. But these channeling abilities, I don't even think if you gave Death and Decay a 3-second like invulnerability window like they did with the Keeper's ultimate, I don't think that would break the game. I mean, it rarely shows up anyway. But even if it did do like 3 seconds, I think Death and Decay does like 4% damage to everything. I mean, what's that? 12% damage from the ultimate ability that costs a ton of mana. I mean, like what does level 3 Shockwave do in terms of the hit point cost of stuff? Level 3 Breath of Fire. Level 3 Blizzard. What is the obviously the radius is huge, but it's the ultimate. Like what is the Blood Mage's ultimate damage do? The Phoenix, the Infernal, Metamorphosis, the Tinker in terms of adding damage to buildings and things. I'm trying to think of some other ultimates. The Warden's ultimate. Would it be broken? It would obviously be a lot more powerful, a lot more viable. I don't think it would break the game though. I mean, I just don't think it would. I mean, it's the ultimate ability, has a big cooldown, has a big mana cost. I don't think it would automatically be like a top 5 ultimate. I still think Infernal would be better. I still think Phoenix, Metamorphosis, Avatar. I don't know. The Tauren Chieftains is a bit of a gray area. Reincarnation is really good, but it's sort of a passive thing, so it's probably like second tier. Um, Starfall is probably right there. The coverage of Starfall is a little different. It'd probably be about the same as Starfall um, in terms of impact. But yeah, anyway, in this game, I think I'm going to go for Mass Grunts here with a Tauren. So again, you maybe have seen this strategy before. I've got I'm the edge spawn player. I've got a human next to me who, not getting a tower early, looks to be going for a fast expand with a Mountain King. Pretty standard sort of general stuff. Pink looks to be joining him. I'm not entirely sure why. The Warden, maybe he better be careful. Some players get really annoyed when you like team up. I don't know if they talked about like double teaming a camp. They probably did, I think, if I remember correctly. But sometimes when you do that, players get angry. You're like stealing their experience. It's kind of stupid, honestly. But if your strategy requires you to sort of get level 3 or 2 on certain timings, that might make sense. I'm actually going Shockwave in this game, so I'm going to be going for more of a base harass type deal, which is generally what I do with this strategy. Either base harass or trying to catch like archers and stuff early to mid game progression. But yeah, as far as like the then I've got an elf here who looks like he's going for a hunter's build. Like I said, he had the Warden. He does have some archers at first, so now he's switching to huntresses. Probably a decent decision. I like huntresses in the early game. Archers are pretty slow. I would rather start huntresses and then transition to archers because of timings. You will start to see like air units later that archers will be more effective against, casters, things like that. Whereas in the early game, I think like movement speed is very useful. You see a lot of like footmen and grunts and fiends and headhunters and things, and I generally prefer like the fast movement speed, harassment, different kinds of, in terms of fighting creeps. I think huntresses do a lot extra damage against a lot of like these level 5 deep seers. They a little bit tankier and stuff, but anyway, it's just my personal opinion. Then we've got Green, who looks to be getting a bunch of towers, throwing up a weird timing blacksmith. I don't know what he's going to be going for. Maybe rifles. And I don't know. Oh, he's not exactly sure what all he's crept. I guess he's crept the 2 green camps beside of his base, and then this green camp. So okay, that's an interesting combo or order. He's about to hit level tier 2, so he maybe is going to be getting a bunch of bonus. He will be getting a bunch of bonus experience when he creeps this if he hits level 2, or sorry, tier 2, I should say. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's like, wow, he got a really good use out of. I mean, it's maybe overkill to use 2 charges, but wow, he crept that camp incredibly quick with Lightning Shield. I mean, you can do it, and again, that camp is like tailor-made for Lightning Shield to just own it. So that was pretty good. We've got Blue here harassing Pink's expansion. Pink looks to be doing a decent job of microing, but here's like the issue with going archers. Like I said, he's not shadow melting, which is bad, but these huntresses, he can't run these archers. Like, they're just gonna either shadow melt or die, and huntresses are gonna beat the archers. Same with all these footmen. You're not gonna be defending your base very well with archers. You'd much rather have like 3 or 4 huntresses here for this. But it looks like with Green's assistance here that they're going to be in good shape. In the meantime, I'm going to be doing a similar idea that Yellow did, except I'm using grunts, so I get pillage. I don't have defend, which obviously would be very useful if I were to hit Red's base. But I decided to just skip it. So many, 4 towers already. They're in good position. I can't just, roll through them. I might go for these bestiaries. Yeah, I think actually I do pull back here and I go for these bestiaries and I try to like shockwave and I hit both the towers and the burrow and one of the bestiaries. I might have gotten both. I don't, maybe not. I don't know. That seems unlikely to get both, actually. So, but yeah, I want to like stop him from getting whatever is coming out of these bestiaries, which I'm hoping isn't. I'm hoping it is raiders actually, because if it's wind riders, he's gonna have some serious DPS popping out on my grunts. But oh, he got both the raiders. I almost stopped both of them. But and I've got this greater healing potion, which I'll pop it. I think I focused down this raider. If I microed a little better, this probably would have been just devastating for red. But I'm going to have to get out before I get this burrow, before I get the voodoo lounge, before I get the bestiary. And I had a bunch of units that were mostly in green. I guess about half my army was really damaged. So it's fine that I, get it. I mean, obviously, I'll make a big mistake there. I didn't realize there was another grunt. I thought I had to cancel that burrow, so that's annoying. But that went pretty well. I killed one bestiary. I might have lost one grunt, and I think I killed one raider. I killed 2 towers. I got a bunch of damage on his shop. I got a bunch of damage on his other bestiary. And I knocked out the towers that were covering like this side of his base mostly. Plus I saw what he was getting. Plus he had to defend his base with his Blade Master. So I think that went fairly well. Again, pillage makes it very useful. Hitting buildings, of course. And I pick up a a town portal. I don't remember if I picked that up in my base or this shop. Go ahead and pick up an armor scroll and a heal scroll, and I've got a speed scroll. So now I run into Red's army. I hit him with a shockwave. I probably should have just saved that. I probably could have did a little better on the surrounding. I do get 2 raiders though, so pretty decent. I did use a speed scroll to do it. And yeah, here I go into his base. Yellow's going to be helping defend. Well, I didn't kill that voodoo lounge. It had 30 hit points left. That was a bit silly, but I got a little excited with all these rifles and raiders. These are actually great targets for me to go. I'm going to do extra to the rifles. I'm going to do extra to the raiders. I'm not really scared of either of these, rifles or raiders. Raiders are DPS are really bad against anything with buildings really or unarmored targets. Rifles, again, not really amazingly effective in terms of damage. He pulls back. Orange joins up, and now okay, he's got vampiric aura for his raiders. He's got vampiric aura for his ghouls. For the Blade Master, he's got a bunch of fiends. He's got the entangle and stuff. So I have to get out of there without doing too much. So they defended pretty successfully. It took like 3 players really to sort of punish us there. I point out that there are 3 players sort of towards the top. Yellow is not exactly at the top, so that might have been a little bit inaccurate to say, but I've sort of kept them off of our expansion. Sort of been doing some damage. Not that second attack was not super effective. Orange had a pretty solid army to attack me when I was low on mana. If I had a bunch of mana, if I had full mana, I would have just obliterated all those ghouls and probably most of those fiends. So that would have been very bad news for him. But luckily for him, I was out of mana. I pick up a mana potion now, so hopefully next time we have an engagement, I'll be in good shape. This is, again, bad news for Red, sort of bad choice decision making. I don't know, maybe he didn't scout me. He couldn't assume that my base was here, my army was here, but he should have probably known. He needs to avoid, basically he needs to avoid my army. And so he town portals all the way across to Orange's base, which is getting attacked by Teal. It's getting attacked by, I guess just Teal. And Teal's actually knocked out Orange's gold mines. That's sort of hilarious. So the Raiders town portal in, they're not actually defending Orange's base at all. This is this is a terrible base build. Orange has all these towers nowhere near his gold mine and or his town hall, which is those are the 2 biggest sort of priority targets that you don't want to lose. So anyway, I have an engagement with Yellow here. Again, Yellow needs to fight somebody else's army. He doesn't need to fight me. He doesn't really need to fight maybe Teal in a bit when he starts to get Griffins. Looks like he's going for. But defended footmen probably do okay as well. But Yellow, his hero levels are going to allow him, with Thunderclap and with these water elementals, he's actually not going to get. He's going to kill some of my units. He's going to slow down my attack. He's going to lose all these rifles for sure. So it's not a total loss for me. I hit level 5, which is you know, I'm closing in on level 6, which is going to be very scary for them. I view these grunts as mostly expendable. Red just leaves the game. Like, he's tier 3. He's I think he's got a bunch of raiders that never really did much. He constantly he runs into green, which is probably not. It's not a terrible situation for red, honestly, but he left the game, so the game's about to be over. He's gonna leave. But if he ensnared all these casters and went for the caster specifically, I think he, especially since green's hero is like totally oblivious. I don't know what he's not paying attention, I guess. Red's AFK Red is actually going to gobble up all these casters. Well, maybe not. Polymorph might save the day with how incredible it is as a spell here. But and Teal's got all these Griffins, and no clue why anyone's running anywhere near these Ziggurats. There's no real reason to fight those at all. I mean, obviously at some point we'll probably need to destroy them, but not right now. So yeah, that's going to be the end of the game here. I'll run through the score screen, and I'm gonna sort of go ahead and skip to another part here. So I'll see you on the next video.